And I like to walk around the office and sometimes get back to my office and say, I noticed something on this person. I go back to the office, close the door and ask. Sometimes they start crying. It's me. But they have some problems, some issues. It's amazing to say, how can you be here working? You have those problems. You need to go home.
Right.
You need to go home. Take care of it. What can we do to help you? And that's one thing we need to be careful. We have people around us in our office. Always ask if you sense that there is change on their attitudes. Because sometimes they start acting like they're not caring about the job. That's not the case. It's because they have big problems. Yeah, they have problems. See how you can help them and support them.
Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 Podcast. What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 Podcast. For those regular listeners, what you're thinking right now is, where have y'all been? It has been a minute. And you're right. Our last episode was at the end of August with Randy Humphrey. And since then, if you guys have been listening and tracking leading up to that, you know that Kevin and I had been insanely busy with the law firm and Mountain Mover Facades and just spinning up all of those things. And so we just were in a season where the primary thing had to be the primary thing. Lots of folks have asked, are y'all done? And the answer is no, but we've just got to find more margin to do that. And last week I had the opportunity to have some margin. And in fact, about a year ago, a listener, Kathy Altman, reached out and said, hey, at the 2025 annual meeting of the American Bar Association's Forum on Construction Law, it's going to be down in Austin. And if you guys have some interest, we would love for you to moderate a conversation for the diversity committee that has a breakfast on the Friday morning of the conference. Would you be interested in doing that? Absolutely. I would love to do that. And so over the course of the last year, we've been building towards what happened last week, which was the opportunity to sit down and do something that we love doing on the podcast, which is facilitating someone else telling their story. It just so happens this time it was in front of a couple of hundred, maybe more than that, of our favorite construction lawyers. But last week we recorded with Luis Spinola of Azteca Omega here in Dallas. And so what follows, and I'll hard cut to it here in a second, but what follows is the live recording from the stage at the Diversity Breakfast during the American Bar Association's Construction Law Forum spring meeting down in Austin. But before I kick it over to the interview, a couple of shout outs and thank yous. Any of y'all have ever participated in a committee like this, you know that these meetings, and it's hundreds and hundreds of people coming together, they do not plan themselves. So us being able to interview Mr. Spinola required a lot of hand-holding of us and a lot of planning. It's been going on for a while. And so first, and I think I already mentioned her name, but first to Kathy Altman for reaching out and saying, hey, I think this would be a good idea. I think this would be beneficial and helpful for the forum. And so thanks to Kathy for reaching out. Thanks to Colby Campbell. You guys heard from her. She's a wonderful construction lawyer here in Dallas. She was episode 131 with us, and Colby was the one who was able to connect us with Mr. Spinola. So thanks to Colby for helping champion some of that. Let's see. Keith Bergeron, the chair of the committee. He's a construction lawyer there in New Orleans. Neil Johnson, who was really sort of the checking in, making sure you're okay. Is everything all right? Let's make sure the logistics are handled. Met us early in the morning on Friday to make sure that everything was lined up all the way from where the tables went to how the microphones got placed. Thanks to Neil. He's in Greensboro, North Carolina. Programming co-chairs, Carmela. Carmela, I'm going to butcher your last name, but Mastriani, from Charlotte, Dorsey Carson from Jackson, Mississippi, all just super helpful in making sure that everything came together well, everything was run well, everything was planned well. So just super thankful for that. But the real unsung heroes of that really are the folks of the ABA up in Chicago. Let's see, Patricia Harris and Tamara Harrington. I just bugged their brains out on what chairs we're going to go where and all the planning and stuff like this. And so even redlining the some of the waivers and stuff. So thank you for your patience as we work through some of that stuff. And last in order, but definitely not least, the American Arbitration Association, who's a platinum sponsor of the ABA Forum on Construction Law and was the sponsor of this year's Diversity Breakfast. So thanks to, oh man, so many people. Michael Powell, Rod Tobin, Erica Kleinschmidt, Kate Rom, and just everybody at the American Arbitration Association for your support of the forum. And without further ado, Luis Spinola. Well, thanks for the intro. As you can tell, we have a lot to talk about with Mr. Spinola this morning. And before we get there, thanks for having us. I don't know, I didn't see Kathy this morning. This was probably over a year ago when you guys started planning the conference. I think it was Kathy Altman reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And I was like, yeah, say more. Because we've been doing this podcast since the middle of COVID. We started. I'll be brief. I like to talk. I'll be brief. Everybody's like, how'd you get it? How are you doing a podcast? I was like, well, let me tell you. In the middle of COVID, a buddy of mine, long story short, we were having lunch and he was like, we should do a podcast. And I was like, you should. And here we are, this will be 182 episodes later of interview. Like, it has nothing to do with me or my buddy Kevin who are doing this. We have the privilege of people trusting us with their stories. And I know that sounds real hokey, but go listen. We have, there's a couple of guests here in the crowd. Colby here in the front has been on. She had an amazing episode. I think I saw Lauren Abeda in the back. She's got her head ducked with a hat on, but Lauren's here. And there's probably others who I haven't picked out yet, but over the last 5 years, we've just got to tell really cool stories of how people got into construction. We've had a chance to talk with Navy SEALs. We've had a chance to talk with authors, pastors, a couple of folks that are on Shark Tank, entrepreneurs, all of it. And it's just been our privilege to tell those stories. That's what we do. If you're interested, go check it out. 1720. I'll tell you all about it some other time. I'll hang out here, but I don't want to steal any more time from Mr. Spinola. We have a cadence to how the podcast gets started. Every time we do a little bit of a shenanigan and then we ask one question to get us going. And so I'll just start it like that. Usually we're in a studio and it feels different, but we'll just start there. And I'll join you guys into our conversation with Mr. Spinola. You know how we start. We did a little prep, but for all of your new friends here in the audience, tell us, who is Luis Spinola?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for the nice introduction. Oh yeah, like you heard, I was born in Mexico City, and I grew up in Mexico City, and was in construction. My dad was a doctor, which he wasn't. I guess he always supported me that I didn't want to be in the medicine, the health field, and I was influenced by two of his brothers who were engineers and had construction companies in Mexico. And I always liked construction. Then I got into engineering and construction. And got married, 47 years, been married. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and I give all the credit to my wife, really, that we've been able to. No, we have two children, a boy, Luis, and Lourdes. I have 3 grandchildren, 3 boys, 5, 3, and 1. You can imagine how much energy we have on weekends.
Yeah, you don't get the privilege of seeing yourself when you say that, but your face lights up when you talk about them. So I'm sure that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great experience. You have grandchildren. Then we had an opportunity back in it was early 83. Actually, before I used to come to Dallas, we live in Dallas, in Irving. I used to come to Dallas to buy Caterpillar construction equipment. And there was a big devaluation in 82 of the peso. and they closed the border for imports. And we had equipment in Dallas. And it was an opportunity that the person that used to help us with the equipment say, hey, why don't you keep the equipment here in Dallas? There is a lot of work in 83, back when there was a lot of work in downtown and everywhere. Which I was working with one of my uncles, and he asked me, he said, Luis, would you go? So I spoke English back then, and I said, I don't know. It's, we had my son was 1 year old, and my dad had just passed away, which was very hard for me. And my wife said, well, maybe let's go for 2 or 3 years, get the equipment working, then we bring it back, we come back to Mexico. And my mother-in-law always complained, Luis, you said 2 or 3 years.
This was 82 or 3.
83,
right?
yeah.
It's been a minute,
Luis,
yeah.
He said, what happened?
Just, waiting, yeah.
Yeah, you're waiting. But then my daughter was born, and things went well in the early 80s. Right, some of you may remember 86, 87, the big banking savings and loan crash. It was very hard for us.
Yeah.
Because we used to do mostly private work, on the civil work, private companies. We lost almost 90% of our receivables in 3 months, if you remember.
Let's one of the things I like to do, and I think probably listeners hate, is I like to just stop. I'll just stop the story right there. I want to pin that, like just hold that moment in time, right? Because I don't want to get too far away from some of the points before that I think are important to talk about. So I want to pin that moment in time. And we're going to come back and I want to pick up a few things, and then we'll come back to it, because I think that's a good inflection point there to start telling another version or the rest of a story, if you will. Who was that? Paul Harvey? I didn't mean to Paul Harvey, y'all, on accident. Sorry. So take me back, because I didn't grow up. A lot of the podcast is me just asking selfish questions. I didn't grow up in Mexico City. Tell me what is that like? Tell me. I'm not asking, like, don't tell me every story, but like, it's got to be different than growing up in America in the 80s, like I did. Tell me.
Yeah, it was Mexico City has grown tremendously since we came here, and life has really changed, as you know, everywhere in the world, unfortunately. But it used to be a very, very beautiful city. It's a very beautiful city. I don't know if you've been in Mexico City, but it's a beautiful, beautiful city. All our families live in Mexico City still. And but you could be very safe. You could be 2 or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, because the Latin life, everything happens late. You go dinner 10 o'clock, right? You go out, have entertainment, and 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it's safe. It was safe. It has changed a lot, but we come here, and it was very different.
Yeah.
If you don't have dinner at 8 o'clock, 8:15, the kitchen is closed.
Yeah.
Now it has changed a lot. Now it has really changed, but back then that was a big shock. There was not a lot of entertainment that we used to have. A lot of public. We had very good friends at the beginning that helped. Obviously, my wife, I used to spend most of the time on the field, but it was tough for my wife. But we had very good friends that helped the transition being here. And
when we were talking, getting ready, you told me a story about building. Y'all had when you're still in Mexico City, y'all were working on these projects, and you're kind of on the road a lot. And then you had at one point come into the States and built. It wasn't for trains. It was like some integration crossing or some train related depots or something.
Well, now if I can just go back.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because when we came, I say I'm not going to be here. When I was the approach in this destiny. Normally, I wasn't in Mexico City. I left home Sunday night, first thing Monday morning, came back Saturday, because I was doing projects around outside Mexico City. And it's just destiny that for some reason I had to stay in Mexico City that Monday. That's when this person came to Mexico to talk to my uncle, say, why don't we put the equipment to work?
Mm-hmm.
They called me, came down to the office. I thought it was a crazy idea. See, what? But and I had an opportunity on doing some work in California, in Calexico, years before. I used to build bus terminals and trailways. If you remember trailways, now it's Greyhound.
Right.
They had a terminal in Calexico, California. We built one in Tijuana, and they really liked the concept and how it was. Then I had an opportunity to see the system in the U.S., which is a lot simpler than doing construction in Mexico. It's very complex, a lot of documentation, especially with the devaluations back then. You had to do basically escalation analysis every month. And I used to have to do that, which kind of helped me a lot on pricing, on estimation, on project, because that's what kind of helped me to get started. Then came here and say, I'm not going to be there. My wife is going to be here, my son. They say, if I can get everything set up in 1 month, I'm not going. And I came to Dallas because I had to buy anyway. I had to get some parts for some machinery. And I went, and you won't believe this, but within a week, I got my visa. Another week, we got the company registered here in Austin. In another week, we had the first job. We rented an office in Irving, and the landlord was a developer. He had this 30-home development and said, would you guys do it? And he was impressed on how I broke down the schedule and the logistics and the pricing and stuff, which that's what I used to do, which normally is not done here. It's a lot simpler bidding process. He was very impressed. I said, hey, you have the job. So then in less than 3 weeks, we had everything set. Sent the documents that I needed for my wife. She went to the embassy in Mexico City with my son. And a little over a month later, she was here, my son. And it's unheard of. I mean, it's just destiny, pure destiny. And God helped me, just then we started. And again, things went well. The economy was very strong back then. Again, then we grew tremendously. And by working, just what you say, can-do attitude, getting things done, being straight, very honest, transparency. Clients like that. And we until we hit the 86, 87, which was never had confronted that situation, which it was very hard for me because one of those things that what you do, but being upfront, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think most of us know what was happening in that period of time, but there's for the younger faces, what was going on during that period of time that was causing sort of the financial implications to your business?
Yeah, if I remember right, I think President Reagan changed the laws for investors, for developers on taxation. Then they pulled a lot of the money out of the projects, and then people were over borrowing money on the projects, more than what the projects were worth. But they were cash flowing it because they got the next project and the next project, And I understood this later. But some of the projects, unfortunately, some of the developers we were working for, they ended up in jail because of what they were doing. But we always kept everything very straight, very transparent because we were interviewed and we had everything very clean, very upfront. Then we were okay. Had to speak with all our suppliers, big suppliers, and they worked with us. And they supported us. And took us about 2 years, 3 years. And I remember somebody gave me a little note that said, don't give up. Just keep working, keep fighting. And we were able to, in 1991, we came out very, very, very strong.
So let's focus on that little moment in time. It's probably more, it felt like more than a moment in time, but with the benefit of hindsight, What would you say are some of the hallmarks of you or your business or the relationships that you had that allowed you to lean in and grind through that, right? Because I feel like, and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking the question. I feel like oftentimes you hear that story. You hear a situation where there's an economic impact, there's price escalations, heaven forbid we say the T word here, and the parties to the industry or the parties to that you have relationships with don't always play ball like that. Sometimes it gets real ugly, but that's not your story. And so what about you and your company and the way you were operating allowed that to become your story?
Yeah. The other thing is, and I give credit to our employees and workers. So I always give credit to them. It's,
Oh yeah.
it's, they work with us. They never fail to pay people. I had to hold my checks. They didn't get paid for several weeks, but our people always got paid. That they are the ones that really get the work done.
Right.
And you need to give credit to them. But it was very tough, very, very difficult. But I give a lot of credit also to my wife for her support, because it was difficult.
Mhm.
But that's one thing I'd say to people, to small businesses: don't give up. Just always do the right thing. Be truthful. Upfront with your banks, with everyone you do business with, because people go through trouble. Like, that's part of business, being in business. You just need to be upfront, tell the truth, tell them you have problems, you tell them. And they'll help you. Normally, people will help you to get over. But you need to tell the truth and always do what you say you're going to do. Even if it's late with your banks, just tell them. They're not going to be surprised. One thing, they will be surprised and upset if you don't do what you say you're going to do.
Right. Yeah. If you're dishonest.
Yeah.
And not following through on your commitments.
Yeah, and especially your bonding companies. Yeah.
Not looking at anyone in particular, but
and sometimes they tell me, Luis, we don't need to know that much. Say, no, here, I give them reports of everything. Because say, hey, I understand you're in a very difficult business because you need to trust other people that they're going to do what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're signing up for them. Then I need you to know what we're doing, because very probably there's going to be a problem somewhere. But I need you to know, so you are not surprised. And that has worked for us. And when I recommend, when I talk to other small businesses to kind of do the same, because everyone gets in trouble, has problems, especially in construction. It's very difficult. I know you are expert in construction. Then the one thing I told Stuart when I was starting to talk with him, say, what do you need to understand? I'm maybe your worst client. Why? Because we have a very little litigation over the years. Very little. And I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm a terrible client for you guys.
Well, but I appreciate the joke of that. In a room full of lawyers, everyone's like, oh my gosh. But it also depends on how we define what a good client is, and how we measure like the impact that we have on the industry. Because I don't know, and I can't speak for everybody, but I don't know that all of us are looking at that, right? Because oftentimes from my seat and my perspective, it's not about how much money I can put on a bill and send to you. It's how much impact I can have for you and your company and your employees and your trajectory and all that stuff. And so it depends on how you define a good client, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there are issues. Their subcontractors have issues. And even clients sometimes. Then it's just a matter of working out things, talking, communication, which is number one problem in construction, is lack of communication.
Okay, I want to linger on that, because it's a really good point, and it sounds so simple. Like, you've said a couple of things that are really good points that I feel like, well, that's a real dumb moment, right? Like, do what you say you're going to do. Be honest. All these things. But one of the things we talk about on the podcast a lot is like focusing on the fundamentals. like doing the really easy stuff well. And that's what you're saying. But the communication piece is always very interesting to me. It piques my interest about that. Do you think that it's a change? Like people have changed the way they've been communicating on projects over the years, or is it more or less or better or worse?
No, you know this technology.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you cannot get away from your business because people keep texting you, communicating you. They call you, hey, I sent you an email 10 minutes ago. Why you haven't answered?
Yeah, right.
Right? Because
Been there.
that happens. Or texted you, say, why didn't you answer? You know, I was on a meeting or I was on a Teams. That's another thing, which has helped us to be more productive. The Teams meetings, these Zoom meetings, which was because of COVID. Actually, there is more communication now than it used to be. It was verbal before, by the phone, or it had to be in person. But now with these devices, you can really keep really good communication. The problem is that the families suffer because you never get away from work. It's a problem. And really, one thing that can hurt me is we do a lot of work on airports, especially in DFW airport. And that's never stopping. That's 365 days, 724s. And when there is something, you have to be. And then on the last maybe 6-7 weeks, we're involved in a very innovative project, which is a lot of pre-construction, big modules. And you may be able to see that in the next weeks on the media because it's big modules that have been moved to 300-foot long pieces, prefabricated buildings being moved across the runways. It's amazing. By the way, just the logistics and the pressure to be ready tremendously. And I had to work and be working at the house. We have a library where I have my office. Really kind of hurt me is my 5-year-old. As you know, they are smarter than it's crazy because they tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. But he told me because they come to the house. We gather together on Sundays. He told me, abuelo, as you know, abuelo is grandfather in Spanish. Abuelo, why are you not with us? We've been here for the last 2 or 3 weekends and you haven't been with us. It really hurt me. I say, that's the value. That's what we need to, families it's number one. But sometimes we need to be careful that we don't stay too much on this and stay away from the family. It's the one thing that I even tell our people, don't because they keep answering emails. Say, no, you can wait until tomorrow, until Monday. You don't need to be answering all the emails. Because if you keep answering, people are going to expect you to answer the emails. They need to understand that you respect your family time.
Okay, that's a fantastic point. I won't speak for all of y'all, but I suspect it hits everybody in a different way, right? My personal experience has been that phone that was supposed to make everything easier made it a little bit more complicated. And you don't realize it until you're at dinner with your 5-year-old grandson and he says, where you been? Yeah. It takes moments like that to hard reset us back against really focusing on what is important. And the jobs are important and the work is important and what's in your inbox is important, but it's less important than the people at your dining room table. Yeah. Well, okay. So give me 2 tips on how to do better at that. I mean, is it just a function of leave it in the truck or is it how do you manage it?
Now, let me tell you, because one of the things we've been fortunate is we like to travel. I like to take at least once or twice a year a trip around the world, overseas. And the one thing I talk to my wife and say, I'm going to have to spend maybe 30, 45 minutes, an hour in the morning and in the evening. Sometimes the time change, right? But I answer the emails in the morning before we leave so that I'm not being distracted. And then in the evening, then they know that I'm going to be doing that. And also at the office, they understand that that's when I'm going to be answering. And it has worked for us, but then you need to limit that you need to set rules. You need to talk to your wife or your family, make sure they understand, so they don't get they don't feel like they're second, right?
Yeah. So here's my two takeaways: is setting expectations and setting boundaries.
Yeah,
that's probably good life advice, by the way.
So people in your office, so they need to understand, right?
Yeah.
That you have those times.
Yeah.
Just be disciplined like anything else.
Yeah. Okay, so I pinned that story a long time ago. We came back to it in the mid '80s, and I'm going to kind of go back. We talked a little bit around it, but I want to talk about coming out of it, right? So where we sort of left it was in the '90s. Start taking back off again. Tell me the story of from there to here, and then I want to talk about what the future looks like for you guys.
Yeah, then we in the early '90s. Because we're doing most of our work was subcontracting to general contractors, and we wanted to kind of do more as a general contractor directly to the owners. But what really helped me, I don't know if you are familiar, you've heard of the SBA, the Small Business Administration 8A program, which is a certification where minority companies can get a certification. It's a very lengthy process. And it lasts for you have 9 years max or size. If you grow the size, then you're out of the program. And that really helped me to negotiate the work with the federal entities.
Okay.
But you have to identify the projects before they go out public.
Okay.
And they are up to certain size. They have to be certain size projects, not large projects. Then that helped us to develop the general contracting group division in the company. And we did a lot of work for all the government entities, federal government entities, from Air Force to GSA, Department of Energy, Corps of Engineers. We did quite a bit of work. It helped us to grow. And one of the things I feel very proud is that also when we graduated, I think it was early 2000s. We graduated 9 years. And SBA actually asked me, actually the Department of Defense asked me to mentor the first, you're familiar with the Services Disabled Veterans Program?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we mentor the first project on that program. It was a 5-star general that was the Corps of Engineers and Chief of Engineers during the Clinton administration.
Mm-hmm.
And then we mentor him to get into the construction program out of Annapolis in Virginia. Then we mentor him, which was a big honor.
Yeah.
We got cool. Actually was at the Pentagon where we actually negotiated that. That was a big one of those things that can stay with you. It's a big, tremendous experience. And we helped them to get there. They got their first job with the VA hospital over there. And it was a very, very refreshing, very nice feeling to help. And then since then we have helped other companies on different things, mentoring, and it's good to be able to, because it helps you to help others as well.
Yeah,
you grow.
Let's talk a little bit about the mentoring overlay. At the firm, we've hired a baby lawyer who won't start until November. And sometimes when I tell people that, they're like, oh boy. Right. And I have a different reaction. Like, yeah, oh boy, like I get the opportunity to pour into this individual and teach them everything I know. And so there's a very different approach to how we think about taking somebody from nothing to, or not nothing, but from where they are to where they can go. And I've heard, we've only been talking for a couple, 3 weeks getting ready for this, but I've heard you talk about helping others, mentoring, leaning in, I should say, a lot. So talk to me about how that shows up in your life in terms of, when we talked about it here for that 5-star journal, but other instances where you're like leaning in and helping folks.
Yeah. And you need to be careful. And I would say that you need to be in a position to help others and not do it too early, right? Because you need to build your own company, your own entity, and get to in a position where you can help others, because other people come to you and they try to get help. Unfortunately, some people can get help and use the help to grow, and unfortunately, others just you realize that they just unfortunately they can get to the next level, and you hurt them by trying to get into the next level because they can fail. And I had one experience with a company in Fort Worth. Unfortunately, we helped him. We thought it was great that he was growing. He failed, and that was very big learning experience for me. That some people you need to be careful that you don't try to get them to the next level because they are not ready.
Mm.
They are not ready, and they won't. They're good at that level, right?
Yeah. When you started talking about that, I was thinking about, and maybe you meant this too, thinking about me being ready to help. And maybe there's two parts to that: is making sure the other person is ready to receive the help. It's kind of a two arrows pointing both ways, I guess. What? Maybe there's no answer to this. I don't know. Sometimes we ask questions that put me in a dead end. But what was it about that other company that, from your perspective, they weren't ready for it? Or could you have figured that out before? I'm trying to just see if there's like a nugget in there somewhere.
Yeah, because they need to have the people, the structure to be able to take the next level challenges.
I got you.
And he did not have. Yeah, the people we thought they were gonna do what they were supposed to do, and they did it. And that's one thing needs to come from obviously from the owner, but you need to have people that understand that you have to be disciplined. And again, what we just talked, that you have to have the can-do attitude. You need to get things done, because in construction, like any other business, you can try to do certain tasks 10 times, but if you don't finish, it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just what you accomplish is what counts. And that's when you submit your billings at the end of the month. The only thing that counts, what you got done, not how many times you tried to, right? It's if it rain, ice, doesn't matter. What you got done, that's the only thing that counts. And that's what we need to keep always in mind and make sure that all your people understand that. And one thing you asked to say, what really has helped us in the company is we have people who have been with us for 30-something years, and even my wife sometimes, because we have picnics in the company, and my wife and my children kind of talk to some of our employees and say, my wife says, Luis, the scariest thing is when I'm talking to some of our key people, they talk just like you. It's scary. See,
You're rubbing off
scary.
on folks.
I thought I was the only one that had to put up with that. It's obviously we like to joke, right? But that's what really makes the companies. That you have people think you, and I get very, very glad to hear when I get letters from. We do a lot of work for the cities, for DFW, and I get letters of compliments for our people doing work in different places.
About your
neighbors, our people,
Yeah.
neighbors, even neighborhoods, very respectful, clean, can do, get the things done, and it's but that's what really what makes companies, right? When you surround yourself with people that know more than you.
Oh yeah.
And just let them do their job.
Okay, so I lost track of time a little bit in terms of like when it was, but a few years ago we had this moment in time where all anybody was talking about was the Great Resignation. You all remember that? Everybody was moving on to something new. I spent a lot of time thinking in that moment, like, how do you avoid it? How do you avoid people picking up and moving next door for $1? How do you? What are the impacts of that? All that stuff.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is you got long tenured employees. So share with us and 200 of your best friends, like, what's the trick? Because we all want to keep our people. We all want this thing to stay.
Yeah, and it was tough. We lost some people, and a year, 2 years later, they were coming back. But because you couldn't avoid, people were being offered a lot of money, but I knew that was not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at that moment, some people needed someone because they had also lost people, but it couldn't be sustained. You cannot pay those kind of salaries and be competitive on your projects. But the one thing we talked about it, and we have a tremendous HR manager in the company. She's very personal. She's been with us 20, 24, 25 years. But she's very personal with our people. And then we are basically a family, and we talked about it. I know all our people. We talk to them. We care if they have issues. If somebody lost a family member, we get very, very close. We're always very close to people. It's not just about money. It's about people need to feel like they are needed, that they are appreciated. That's the word.
Oh, yeah.
People have to feel that they are appreciated for the work they do. Sometimes they make mistakes, and you need to talk to them, but you need to be respectful and always make them feel like they are part of your family. And that's very important. Very important. And also make sure that they don't miss a paycheck. That's,
That'll do you in.
Yeah, they may like you, but say, I'm sorry, but I need to feed my family, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's an important nugget in there about understanding what makes people feel valuable. Because I will speak for all of us, but maybe I shouldn't. Is sometimes I feel like lawyers get caught up in the idea that like it's about the money. It's just another bonus of times close where this is what's going to keep them here, and sometimes it does. But the real fact of the matter is people feel appreciated different ways, and people feel appreciated not perhaps through an extra comma on the check they get, but rather the freedom to be at a baseball game. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that makes them feel appreciated. And so this is me speaking for me, but like learn more about my people, the people that I have the privilege to work with, learning more about them so that I can help them feel appreciated has been like very helpful.
Yeah. And make sure that because they need to spend time with their family, especially we have a lot of younger people, because we're trying to get younger employees to make sure that they go to the next cycle in the company.
Yeah.
But if they have family events, we always support it. We always find someone to replace them or oversee the job or a project if they have to go to a baseball game or soccer game with the family, or they have something, an event. We always say you need to take care of your family.
Yeah,
especially you have children. Then you need to do that. And we're very clear. We say we don't pay the highest salaries in the industry because we have to stay competitive. We need to stay profitable, obviously. But the one thing is you will have work here. We've been very fortunate and blessed that we have never had a situation where we had to let people go because of lack of work.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. We have different divisions, like you mentioned. We do different type of work. We do from program management, construction management, general construction, design builds, and then we do some self-performance work as well, civil work. Then we always there are divisions that slow down for a period of time, right? Because we have different industries that we have been doing work. But we have a very consistent list of clients that support basically the operations, where we have maybe a slowdown on other parts of the company. Then we have been able to be consistent, and that's what a lot of people look for, consistency, right? And especially, because your spouse, they are concerned about stability.
Yeah.
Right. And that's very important.
I'm not accustomed. Like usually we just turn the mics on and we just go till we're done. And sometimes it's an hour and sometimes it's 3 hours. And you listeners just deal with it. But I want to be respectful of y'all's time because I know there's a program to get to someplace else in a minute. So we have about 10 minutes, I think. Red flag me if it's not. About 10 minutes to go. So let me zoom us in on a couple of high points as we turn the corner to wrap up. What does the next 5 years, 10 years look like for you and for Azteca Omega? Like, what's the future look like?
Yeah, I've been working on a transition plan in a company. Obviously, my son is an architect, but he really his big goal was not construction. He had a construction company for a while, which was a great experience for him. But he's very good at what he does in architecture. He's extremely good with all these new technologies. Amazing what they do. These visual presentations, amazing, and I'm very proud for what he does. But then he didn't want to stay in the company. He's on the board of our company with my wife as well, and a group of other board members. But I'm working on a transition in the company. But I don't think that I'll be totally retiring because the number one reason my wife would kick me out of the house. She will not let me be in the house during COVID. So you remember COVID? She said,
"Oh yeah, we remember that.
You stay over there, close the door. I bring you coffee, water, whatever you need. You can go to the restroom, come back."
Yeah.
Said, but you stay there, and this is my field. I said, don't. And we made that rule, and it worked well. And because of 40-something years, not of age, but on the business, we have very good relationships. Our clients know us well. Then it's I will continue to work on business development.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to do, and obviously I always stay involved on the financial side of the company.
Yeah, I think it's a fun turn to figure out how to take the next step to go to the next place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to seeing like how that legacy that you've built stays as you work through that. Yeah. It's going to be a fun process.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate that we've been able to attract very good people, very dedicated, and people they are focused on business, don't getting focused on distracted with other issues, other things, and we're very focused on our business.
Yeah,
and all our people are. Again, we have people that have been a lot of different positions that go from somebody that actually started with me in the company back. Well, it was actually in '84, just retired like 2 years ago. But we have people that have been for us forever. Our HR, payroll, payables. It's people that kind of watch your money. The money action, the company, because it's money, company's money. It's everybody's money. Because those funds are what helps pay payroll and pay people and stay in business and keep growing.
Create your consistency.
And it's a blessing. And that's why I do everything what I can do for our people. Because they are the ones that really build the companies. And that's one of the reasons you mentioned the Day of the Construction Worker.
Yeah.
It was in 2003 or 2004. I was the chairman of the Hispanic Contractors Association. And actually, we started that association here in Austin, across from Embassy Suites.
Yeah.
I used to come for the highway lading every month. And we used to meet there on a trailer, portable trailer. That's the office. That was the office when we started the association. I remember Senator West used to come, and they brought fajitas and tortillas and salsas. That's how we conducted the meeting. But then it kept growing. We opened the DFW Regional Association, which now is the largest in the country. Yeah, it's.
I had no idea.
We're doing amazing things. Yeah, really good things. Then at that moment, I was talking with a Mexican consul one day, and they say in Mexico there is the Day of the Holy Cross, which is May 3rd. May 3rd, which is when there's the blessing of all the construction sites in Mexico.
Okay.
Which, they bless all the workers and the projects. And say, why don't you do that here? Why you're not doing with the association? Well, I do in the company. We always did that. I brought food and we celebrated May 3rd within our workers. So why don't you do it with the association, Luis? He say, but I need support. I can't do it by myself. And they say, I'll support you with the consulate. Then we started. We had a mass, because that's part of it. We had a mass at the cathedral in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with the priest that was the father was at the cathedral. We had mass there, and then we had a gathering next to it. And that's how we started 2004. And now it's grown to 9 cities? In Dallas, DFW, we have almost 2,000 people on that day. But it's grown to a family. Because the one thing is that I wanted, first of all, safety. Too many accidents on projects. And I wanted to make sure to bring OSHA, because I brought OSHA into the event. That's our main partner. To make sure that we target the projects where they're not providing proper safety on jobs. We started with a government and commercial, and now we are joining with a housing, because that's where there are a lot of issues. Then but at the same time, I wanted to give credit to the people that really build these buildings, these cities, highways. They don't get any recognition. We have awards for developers, architects, designers, contractors, everybody. But guess what? No credit to the workers. They actually do the work, and they risk their lives. Then that's the reason we started that event. And I got a lot of support even from the mayors of in Dallas, the county officials, state officials, highway officials. And it started growing and growing, because it's very targeted to give awards to employees, to workers. And then we brought the families. Then I brought Parkland, because we wanted to do that as a family event to bring health to families. I brought Parkland.
Oh, yeah.
They did a big they had a big area with a lot of free testing, a lot of different things. I brought the city of Dallas, the fire department, to talk about, because a lot of the accidents, believe it or not, happen at home. Then I brought they had the fire department had a kitchen, a big trailer with a kitchen. Basically, they took all the families through there, and they talk about what are the big risks in the kitchen and at home with electrical and stuff. And we brought also the community colleges, brought universities about talking about the kids. So now you see teenagers. Make sure that the DISD, Forward ISD, to talk about education with children. And then that has grown tremendously into what the field is, not just safety.
Right.
Then I'm very proud that we started that thing, and it has grown, and is helping a lot. And obviously now you see that in nine cities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know how many of us forget that, but oftentimes you see the buildings and you forget the thousands of hands that put them together. If Kevin, my co-host, was able to join us today, that's one of his big things is we've got to you can never forget the only reason we get to do what we do is because of those people who literally put their hands on this building. Mm-hmm. You can't forget those people.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to time check here. We got a couple of minutes. Just like we always start a particular way, we always end a particular way. So I'll give us the kind of traditional 1720 ending, and then we'll wrap up and let you guys head off to your next adventure. But the way we always end is by asking our guest something to this effect. You have a life of travels, adventures, experiences, lessons learned, stub toes, relationships, all the things, right? And I know it's an impossible question for me to ask you, but the way we always end is, what's the one big thing? Like, if you had to give a little piece of advice, a little pithy thing to write on a card and pin on your wall and just live by, what's the one big thing, man?
Well, it's always I guess, be transparent, be honest, and like I said, do what you say you're going to do, and surround yourself with good people, and let them do their job. Just be a good example,
Mhm.
and always take care of your families. That's what really supports you. Without your support, your spouse or your family, you couldn't do what you do. Because I see you learn to sense, to read people's faces, right? And I like to walk around the office and sometimes get back to my office and say, if I notice something on this person, I go back to the office, close the door and ask. Sometimes they start crying.
Mhm.
It's me. But they have some problems, some issues. It's amazing to say, how can you be here working? You have those problems. You need to go home.
Right.
You need to go home. Take care of it. What can we do to help you? And that's one thing we need to be careful. We have people around us in our office. Always ask if you sense that there is change on their attitudes. Because sometimes they start acting like they're not caring about the job. That's not the case. It's because they have big problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have problems. And see how you can help them and support them. And sometimes just talking with you, that makes a difference.
Yeah, being seen, being
Yeah,
heard,
and they
being
come
known.
and hug you. And sometimes big guys come and hug you and say, "Ooh." but sometimes it's tears on their eyes.
Yeah.
I say, holy mackerel, that's it. And again, we're blessed what we have, obviously, and you need to be able to help others if you can.
That's a great place to end. Just taking care of others, right? We kind of all owe it to each other. So I'll end there, and I don't know how.
So, what I wanted to do is tell each of you what I was watching while I was listening to Stuart and Luis. I literally thought that I was listening to my grandfather talk to me about what needed to happen in my life. We heard some things today. We heard transparency, tell the truth, do what you say you're going to do it well, listen to your spouse, teach, believe in people, celebrate them, have empathy for them. This was my masterclass for all of you. I didn't hear a clink on the table. We had no napkins, no cloth to absorb the sound. We appreciate you guys sharing this story, giving us this interview to remind us why we do what we do. Those traits are always sought after. So help me thank Luis and Stuart for this beautiful time together.